Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Director of Event Programming at MediaPost, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Debbie Haag. She is the head of OmniChannel Marketing, Ecomm, and Data Insights and Analytics. That's a long title, Debbie. Welcome.
Thank you.
So,
Glad to be here.
yeah, no, I mean, we just saw each other for our retail summit. So that was really fun to be able to spend some time with you. But, that was all about marketing and that kind, getting into strategy. Whereas this time I get to sort of get behind that, learn a little bit more about the real Debbie. So I'm really happy to do this. I really actually, I know that with American Girl, it's was very much launched in that idea that the belief that characters could inspire girls and make positive impact in girls as they're growing up. And I'm curious for you, was there, and not an American Girl, but was there a character that inspired you? And it may be a girl character or a male character, it could be either, but that really inspired you when you were younger.
Yeah, that's a good question. It can't be American Girl because American Girl just had her 35th birthday.
That's true too.
Yeah, I was a little too old for American Girl. But I would say, I mean, when I was a girl, I didn't read that much. Don't want to necessarily admit that, but I had to read Anne Frank, Diary of Anne Frank in school and religious school. And I would say it's Anne Frank because I mean, we all know World War II, especially for Jews, was a tough time. But she just woke up every morning and was in a good mood and persevered, and she got through it, and I think she was the reason everybody in that house got through it, just because the positive attitude, and she kept going, and, yeah, so I read that book probably, like, 5 times, and it meant a lot to me.
No, that sounds
Yeah.
wonderful. Because in part of the whole American Girl is not just inspiring, but empowering. And did you feel like you've taken any of Anne Frank with you as you've, gone through life and all the challenges that you may have faced?
I do, and everything I do, I mean, it's all about problem solving and nothing goes exactly how you want it, personally or professionally. So I'm always that person. My daughter used to complain, "Mom, you're so optimistic," which is funny. She appreciates it now, but as a kid, she would complain. And I'm definitely half glass full. I don't think I could have gotten through. I mean, marketing's a tough position, and I was in some, tough companies, and I have the can-do attitude. So yeah, I definitely think I took that on.
Yeah, no, I'm curious with your daughter, 'cause with you having that glass half full, what did your daughter take on that, or did she kind of go the opposite? The reason I ask is my mom was more half empty, or is, she's still with
Right,
us,
right.
thankfully, but she grew up very difficult life, very, very poor as a child. So she tends to think that it's going to be the worst. So I almost think I overcompensate and am so much, it's going to work out. Maybe to my detriment sometimes, but and I do agree that given our industry, me in a reporting journalism industry, but marketing as well, they jobs change much more quickly, things happen,
Mhm.
so I think that that's a good attitude to have. But I'm just curious how your daughter, the next generation of Higgs, is
Mhm.
now continuing.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm definitely the most optimistic in the house, but I think I have taught both children. We miss a flight. We're about to miss Christmas at my in-laws, and I'm like, we got to figure it out. We need to rent a car and drive 8 hours through a storm.
Mhm.
All the flights were canceled last holidays, and we had to drive from Oklahoma back to LA, where my in-laws are from, and so I definitely think the kids took on the role, like they can solve anything and they can do anything, but I'm the most optimistic.
Well, that's good. So it didn't trigger the opposite, because I think making someone a little bit more optimistic is a little better than making them more pessimistic.
Right, right.
Not actually, no, because then those who are more realistic or have more realistic attitudes, that can benefit them in many ways as well. So I think we need
You
both.
need the balance.
Yes, we do need the balance. So, well, getting into your career and, I mean, how fun. I mean, you're all about toys. I mean, you did take a stint away when you were at Fox, but, you started at Mattel and then Fox, 20th Century Fox. Is that right? Yeah. And
Yep.
then now, of course, American Girl. So when you were graduating, when you were getting out of school, I mean, I think that would be if you, well, when you were 9, maybe working for toys and Mattel might have been the ambition. But what were you thinking? Was that marketing career in your sights? What were you looking for?
Yeah, and it started before that. But when I graduated, and then I'll go backwards, I did want marketing or advertising. And when I graduated Berkeley, I was like not ready to get the perfect job. So I went straight to get my master's in LA. And so I knew I wanted marketing, and I knew I wanted toys because it started when I was in high school. I worked at a market research company where I would call people on the telephone and get hung up on. And
Oh,
thank God for my positive attitude, because I would just push through it. Like people would hang
mhm,
up on me all the time. And one time they were doing focus groups for a Barbie doll where you sit, behind the mirror, which I
mhm,
did for years once I had my career. But the people from Mattel, we didn't know it was Mattel at the time. They couldn't make it to San Diego because there was a traffic jam. So they made me lead the focus group. I was the moderator in high school, and it was testing advertising for a Barbie doll. So that was the first taste of it. And then I used to drive, I'm not making this up, down the 405 every day and saw the Mattel building before they moved to El Segundo. So I started my career in Neutrogena in finance. I always wanted marketing, and then got into Mattel in market research. And it was hard Mattel was marketing, probably was the most coveted job back then. I
mhm.
mean,
Imagine.
and yeah. And so I started in research, which we talk about the journey. It was the best thing I could have done. Like I wasn't happy at first. I couldn't go straight into marketing, but I learned the consumer, I learned sales data, I learned consumer data. And then I was able to navigate through Cabbage Patch onto Barbie, which again is like the place you want to be in those days.
That's the golden ring, like getting to the Barbie doll.
Yeah. And then launched Barbie Entertainment, which is why then I moved to 20th Century. And even though it was content, I have to say that that was an important part of the journey. I worked on DreamWorks movies, which brought the content and the toys together.
Mhm.
And it made me very marketable. I worked on some of the biggest titles, the TV shows, and then came back to American Girl. So I think it all, was part of that final great job that I'm in now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do agree when you say, starting a research, yeah, no one, that's not your dream in terms of doing that. Although I love research. I'm like I just research of everything. I'm watching something on TV. I'm like, hey, wasn't he somewhere? And then I'd be like doing this. And so that's just, I've always been that way. But that said, we don't all start where we want to, but taking that position to get you where you need to go, so whether it maybe, as you said, you wanted to work for Mattel. So getting in there and then ultimately it made you better or more qualified at your job. So like, so someone even starting out, I mean, I think that's a huge lesson to teach to
Mhm.
instill on your daughter or your son. What do you say for people like that who maybe ex- they have a little bit more of a grander idea of where they're going to start out because
Mhm.
they graduated some big school or what may be.
Yeah, and definitely now, I think it's more important than ever because the market's tough right now. But I think it helped me tremendously. I mean, you have a lot of people. When I started out at Mattel, we call them classes. We all had the same job. It was very competitive. But what set me apart is A, I knew the systems. B, I knew, every age demo because in research, we were over boys, girls, Barbie, Hot Wheels, etc. And then I knew how to read the numbers and take the data and analyze it. So like in the beginning, I remember like just people were like, God, she's so good and smart. And it was just because I brought something to the table. And most of them were more traditional
Yeah.
marketing. Yeah.
No, and sometimes also getting that job that you're not sure about can make you realize, wow, that's a different direction that you do want to go. So I think there's a lot to be said. And I mentioned initially for someone just graduating, but also people changing careers. There are times when, maybe you relook, either you change your career because out of necessity, especially nowadays, but also sometimes you just get tired of where you're at and then being willing to start and maybe a lower position or position, you have to be ready to take maybe not necessarily even a lateral position, but something that's a little lower, but you're bringing all your skill sets with you. So, it can bring you up there. So I do think that that's good advice. I'm curious, you talk
Mm.
about how competitive, oh, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly. That's what happened when I went to Fox. I had to take a huge pay cut. I had to start all over. I had a lot of street cred at Mattel. I knew how to, every part of a Barbie doll, how to cost reduce her, and I had to start over. But I just wanted to, and again, changing industry was hugely important because now you can't have a toy without a story and an
Mhm.
experience. Again, it's all about that journey.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm curious though, when because you talk about Mattel, and I know very well the TV industry, of course, is very competitive. Um, but what was maybe the biggest challenge? And doesn't even have to be about the competition, but just was there ever a time that you really faced this obstacle and maybe even were ready to give up, but then, persevered? What was maybe the hardest time for you that way?
Yeah, and it's funny, this is also good for people starting out or changing careers. When I started, I was young because I went straight undergrad, grad, which you can't even do anymore. And I remember long blonde wavy hair. I smile, I get passionate, my voice gets high. And I remember when I first applied, they're like, she's not serious enough, she's not aggressive enough. I remember even one time someone told my boss at Neutrogena, she's too serious. And everybody who knew me was like, serious? What are you talking about? And it's just because I was young. And so I had to overcome, because Mattel marketing was very like polished and in suits, and not even a lot of people had kids back then. And I had to overcome that I was very good and serious and aggressive and assertive just because I appeared casual. And that was definitely hard to overcome. And even, it's a funny story again, my boss, we were having dinner. My boss, who was my boss on Barbie, who just brought me back on American Girl 4 years ago, she said to my daughter, the reason why I love your mother is because people underestimate her because they think she's casual, but she is definitely like a whippersnapper. Like, she told that
Mhm.
to my daughter in front of me. So yeah, I was challenged with that when I went to Fox too, because it was more a lot of men in home entertainment. And just my president, who was a female, who sat at the table with all the men, she's just like, yeah, you got to be more serious and so
But
that
I
I
think
do.
no, but I almost think that it can be an an ally, which, as your boss said, that basically people are going to underestimate you. And the thing is, what I wouldn't want someone to change, like, because I've spoken with other women like yourself, and one is coming to my mind very specifically, that they basically told her to be a little less. It was Mickey Umberol, and so she did that, and it was very difficult for her. And then she's like, no, this is who I am. And of course, is hugely successful. So I feel like as women, and any younger person, not just a woman, who's told to maybe be less this, more this, whatever it may be, but that's what distinguishes us. I'm not saying you don't sort of become a part of what is, what's the atmosphere, but at the same point, if that's what's going to make you shine, then you need to kind of keep, hold on to that. I don't know. Is there a fine line? What do you think?
I agree with you 1,000%. First of all, I couldn't change. Like you're born with that. And I think that what people learn to appreciate is, like, I have really loyal people that work for me. I brought a bunch over from Fox. So because I'm real and approachable, there's definitely benefits. So I agree, like, definitely overcame. I'm, pretty high up in marketing with a great resume,
Yeah.
but it was just something in the beginning. And you do have to stay true to yourself, because I don't think you could sustain. Like, if you're not being true to yourself, you're not going to be able to make it 30
Yeah.
plus years. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I don't think you'll benefit as much, because, as I said, I do believe that what differentiates us is what makes each person stand out for whatever reason. But also, too, I think you'd be unhappy. And if you're miserable, the more that spark of not liking your job or not liking something about it, it just is going to fester.
Yeah.
And it comes out. It can't not. So I think ultimately you're a better employee being who you are. Like, they hired you, so
Yep.
they knew who you
Right.
were.
Right. Right.
you know?
And yeah, and you just have to remember you're providing a lot of value. And then that's how I think you get through it, is people are like, hey, the output's great. Like, and now it's even different, than 30 years ago. Like, diversity is key now. You want, like, I hate to use this analogy, but one of my peers on Hot Wheels 30 plus years ago said to me, it's like a baseball team. You have to have a catcher, you have to have a first base, you have to have a right. You can't have the same. And I think now everybody gets that. Yeah.
Well, and especially in terms of diversity of cultures, diversity of people, backgrounds. I mean, it's just that's why whenever I know that that's something that that corporations are trying to work more towards, or they say they are. Some do, some maybe lip service, but it's really about, like, you talk with, if you're looking to appeal to consumers. Consumers are everyone. They're all different generations. They're all different sexes. They're all different backgrounds, cultures, ethnicities. So you need to hear from all of them. And by what better way to do it than to have all of them in some way represented in
Right.
your industry, in your, especially as a marketer. I mean,
Yeah.
never mind any industry, but especially as a marketer. I mean, talk about your team in terms of how that works in terms of the collaboration from everyone, and who you're able to listen to, and the different voices, as that may be, okay, this is what I thought, being in your background and your age, your generation, your demographic. And then maybe there's a younger person, a different background, and maybe they even sort of correct you a little bit on certain instances.
Yeah, and I do take pride in my team. I had to create a whole marketing insight ecom team during COVID, because we had moved that team from Wisconsin to LA. So basically hired a full team, and a lot of them I didn't even meet in person. It was on Zoom.
Mhm.
What I did is I have a very diverse team, from entertainment, from toys, from the best ecom. I felt it was more important to get the experts in ecom. So I took them from, fashion, ecom companies like Lucky and Gap, and people that really knew ecom.
Mhm.
Digital marketing, entertainment is the best, because everybody comes to entertainment companies. So my media and digital leads are from Fox. Analytics, I took someone from within Mattel. Marketing, Mattel is known for toy marketing, so I took, from Mattel. And because everybody was an expert in their area, the ages ranged from 20s to 50s, every nationality, and just everybody gets along because everybody respects each other. And I will always listen to everybody, and then obviously I have to make the final call when there's not
Yeah.
alignment. But when it comes to, like, some of the more newer platforms, I don't think some of the things are funny.
Yeah.
So I have to listen to some of the younger people. And we do a lot of diverse, launches. We have cultural celebration dolls, and I will definitely listen because I have everything represented on my team, and that's what's important is I know I don't know everything, and it's hiring the right people and trusting them. Yeah.
But that's what makes it authentic. I know you just released your first, your doll. I forget her name now. Was
The
past,
Kavi, the
yeah.
Indian American. Okay.
And if you don't, if you just do it the way you think you're supposed to do it, then maybe you're going to get it wrong. You know what I mean? It's just, I
Mhm.
feel like, because people have ideas of things, and it's not even, maybe they're not even prejudiced, or they're not whatever. It's just
Mhm.
that's what they know. And if you don't then try to find out, talking to people who actually lived that life or lived that experience, then that's the only way you're really going to know. Like, I'm a big believer in asking questions. Sometimes it maybe comes a little too blunt. I'll be like, well, what, like, whatever
Right.
it may be. But I really do want to know. Like, and that's why I love this job. Like, I love doing this. I love hearing people's stories and how they get through things, and how different. It's funny. There's so many things that weave together from all the women that I'm speaking with, but then there are so many, that those differences, and I love the way it all just gets together. So
Yeah.
I guess that's why I'm a reporter, or
Yeah. Yeah.
in
No,
my
that,
previous life, and am doing that now. But I'm curious, was there ever a time when you maybe had sort of, you wanted to do something, everything was telling you to do something, whether it be, maybe it's a career choice, or maybe it's even a personal choice, and sort of everyone's telling you no, 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 it will be the worst for you, but your gut said to do it and you actually did it. So is there a time that sticks out for you like that, and what was the results?
yeah, I would say it's getting out of toys and going to entertainment. Huge pay cut. I didn't have, I was at Mattel 14 years. The drive was an hour and 20 minutes each way. Definitely a lot of men, where I was used to working with a lot of females, especially on the girl side of Mattel. And so I think it was, the first year was really tough culturally. I'd say it was so different from Mattel. But by the end, it was really good. I did it because I worked on so many different movies. I targeted mom, I targeted boys, I targeted young, old, searchlight, movies. I know how to target really, really well. The media, because we had so much money on some of the blockbusters, and then some you had to be really scrappy. I wouldn't have learned that if I didn't change industries. And I focused on strategy, because if you think about it, I didn't know the nitty gritty of how Amaray case was made or anything like that. And so I had to focus more on the strategy, and that helped me in the higher positions coming back to American Girl.
Okay,
So again, yeah, everything plays a part.
no, I'm sorry, I have to ask, is there a cat in the room? Is that
Well, my dog wants to come in the
that's a
room.
dog. Well, let him in. You can let him in.
If he starts barking.
It was funny. I was like the first thinking of dog, and then I'm like, maybe that's a cat. I don't know, but I'm totally animal lover, so love your house.
I think he might be outside.
Oh, he's outside. Okay, so we'll
We'll keep going.
I just felt bad. I'm like, oh, don't ignore him.
Did you hear him? I was ignoring
No,
him.
it's totally fine. It's not at all bothering me. I was just I had to ask, because what's your dog's name?
He is Atticus. I know you're going to ask why we named him Atticus.
Atticus.
Um,
Okay, and
in
what kind?
Yeah, he's a cockapoo, and he sits in that. I don't think you can see the chair, the couch right there. He
Yep.
sits there all day when I'm on Zoom, and
Aw.
he's just so attached. But yeah,
He's like, why are you in there without me?
exactly. I don't trust him.
Oh, that's so cute. Okay, well, I have to ask you this. And aside from Atticus, what's your guilty pleasure?
I have a few. I would say it's Diet Coke or massages. I don't feel guilty about
Big
either
difference.
one. Yeah, massages. I get a massage once a month, and because sitting, especially during COVID, sitting in a chair and like hunched over. But I would say Diet Coke too, because I know it's not good for me. But one Diet Coke, Diet Dr Pepper makes me happy. One a day.
Very good. Well, yeah, no, I used to. I used to drink Diet Coke, but now I don't drink soda. But yeah, no, I get the appeal. Like, so.
I have one here.
Oh, you have some there. Oh, Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper. Very good. I'm curious in terms of getting into still talking about the guilty pleasures. What's the most recent spur of the moment purchase you made? Or maybe not the recent, but the biggest?
The biggest. This is kind of a funny story. So we moved into our house about 15 years ago, and it had a really outdated deep pool, and we either had to redo it or fill it in. We decided to fill it in because the kids were in high school and never used it. But then during the beginning of COVID, I'm like, I want the pool. Like, I have to be able to sit in my yard when we can go out. So we built a pool, and it took a year and a half instead of 6 months because
No one was
um,
available.
no, it was available. Everybody was building pools. Like, who knew it was an original idea? But yeah, so my pool is finished in October, and I'm so happy. But we decided to build the pool, and then we triggered it, although it took a year and a half. But yeah, it was
Do you
cool.
think because of going through COVID, it made you more apt to do that? Like, I think a lot of people did things during COVID that might have been outside their wheelhouse or what they would normally do, but they were just like, why not? What else do I have to do?
And it's because you were home so much.
Yeah.
100%. I don't think I would have done it going into the office every day. But I was sitting here. I'd walk outside. Yeah. So again, I'm happy. I have a beautiful pool.
Now you have your pool. Is Atticus allowed to swim in the pool?
Oh, he falls in. He knows how to doggy to the sides. Doggy
Oh.
paddle.
Okay, so I want to ask, has there been a recent revelation? And this I do want to be the most recent, where like something that it came to you like, wow, this is important, or this is horrible, or just something that you just were a revelation that really just you responded to in a surprising way, or in a, just a, uh, not ominous, what's the word? Like it really struck with you.
Yeah. And this probably has been building, but over the years, I do think it's different for men and women in the workplace. And I do think there's different standards. And I started noticing it. You don't notice it as much at the junior levels. My first time at Mattel, and like I said, there was a lot of women in high up positions at Mattel, and in marketing generally, there's a lot of women. But when I went to Fox, like I said, the seats around the table were mostly men, one woman, and just getting promoted to the higher levels, like women had to be perfect, and I felt like and on top of everything, whereas the men could joke and be over budget and they would get promoted. And I felt that at the end. And then in going back to American Girl now, again, even though, my boss is a woman, a lot of high ups at Mattel, the C-suite are men. And I just do think there's different expectations. I
Well,
do.
I'm curious because, we do see it changing, but it sounds like, is there a cap? Like, is there, I hate to use ceiling, but like, are you, when you're talking C-suite, maybe that's where it's more male
Mhm.
dominated, but you're seeing more women. And I see it in a lot of the different industries when we have our different shows, and many of our senior level speakers are women, and they're amazing. But I'm just curious in terms of, obviously you're on the manufacturing side, toys, but still that side. And then Fox industry, although I feel like, having come from the entertainment industry, a lot of the senior level were women, although maybe again, it's maybe the ones that I'm working directly with, but then the ones that get really that C-suite
Mhm.
base. I don't know. So you tell me, what are you seeing that you, obviously you said that you are, but just, do you think that it has changed since when you first started out? And do you still see that progression going, or do you kind of feel like it's standing still?
I think it's what you said. A lot of in general marketing, women take a lot of marketing roles and high level. I think it's the level above that, the C-suite. And it's not that there's a ceiling. I mean, forget about CEOs for a minute, but I don't think there's a ceiling for SVPs and EVPs for women. I just think getting there is harder. They just have to be, 100%, whereas men might not have to be.
Mhm.
And because there's more men on the C-suite, they're going golfing, and I don't want to make yeah, typical stereotypical comments, but they're just like helping each other that way. So I think because there's fewer female positions, CEOs, that it's getting harder. But I definitely don't think there's caps or ceilings. And again, like marketing is one area where I think just a lot of women dominate, because it seems like, women are really good at marketing.
No, I agree. And we're seeing more women CMOs, and we definitely
Mm.
have a lot of SVPs and VPs, women, and men both. But I'm just, it's sometimes I'm amazed, like all of our speakers there'll be one guy, and it's not purposely, it's just
Right.
that who, really knew their stuff and was perfect to be on our agenda. So,
Yep.
and
Yep.
just as like you. So, which is
Yeah.
why we should do Debbie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on
Yeah, I
that
just think it's
note,
the expectations. It's more about expectations and deliverables. Yeah.
yeah. Well, my expectations of you were very good, and you delivered. So I'm very happy. Thank you so much for not only
Sure.
part of our summit, but also for doing this today, Debbie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and talk soon.
Yes, definitely. And thank you for watching. And please tell me if there's anyone you want me to peel back the curtain from and find out more about them. Just give me a suggestion, email me, whatever you want, write it on LinkedIn, and I will do my best to get them. But I always love referrals and recommendations. So thanks again. And thank you, Debbie.
Sounds good. Thank you.